Everything you do is
just calm it down a little bit.
Oopsies.
Okay, so we're gonna start off with a question. Does anyone know what a martyr is?
Yes.
What, Logan?
A big cannon thingy.
No, that's a mortar.
Wait, no,
Pritchard?
that's what you said.
A trade.
No.
That's barter. Barter.
Does anyone know?
I don't know where it is.
Yes, Katie?
I think I know what a martyrdom is.
That's martyrdom.
It's literally
It's the
Marty.
it's the act of being a martyr. Does anyone know what a martyr is? Mr. Blair, you want to explain to them?
I mean, does anyone else want to give it a shot?
I kind of want to. Does it
Being a
have
martyr-
anything to do with being unclean? Like
No.
not physically unclean, but like
No.
religiously. Like,
No. It's actually kind of the opposite.
oh,
Yeah.
Darning.
Okay.
Alright, so a martyr is somebody who dies for what they believe.
Correct.
oh.
Okay, so in the Bible and like just as the church as a whole, like the religion, it's not really a religion, it's a relationship with Jesus, but as Christianity we see martyrdom happen a lot. Because, people tend to not like us because we know the truth. And they know it's true, but they don't really want to admit it, so they like to punish us, and Christians are killed a lot for wanting to believe what we believe in, and it's sad, but it happens quite a bit. But now you may be wondering where this happens in the Bible. I'm going to tell you. Okay, so if you turn to Acts chapter 7, we're going to be reading verses 51 through 60. Okay.
Okay.
So does everyone have a Bible or something?
Oh yeah, I probably should make sure you guys had Bibles.
Oh no.
You could do that.
You better not.
Else need a Bible?
I kind of can. But I can. Thank you.
What are we opening to?
Acts chapter 7.
Huh?
Acts chapter 7.
Yes, no, it's wrong. Hey, I really don't feel that bad. Hey, don't know that. It smells so bad.
Wait.
Hey, my mom said to me, huh?
Oh, she said the car.
Yeah, well, my mom would know. I didn't love you.
Alright, are we still looking for it?
Abby's gonna go crazy.
Is everybody in there?
Okay, does anyone want to read verses 51 through 53? Cameron.
Wait,
Did you seriously just finish on my eyes?
Hey!
No, it's not all gone.
Okay, quick.
Stiff-necked people, with uncircumcised hearts and ears, you are just like your fathers, who always resist the Holy Spirit. Was there ever a prophet your fathers did not persecute? They even killed those who predicted the coming of the righteous one. And now you have betrayed and murdered him. You who have received the law that was put into effect through angels, but have not obeyed it.
wow.
Okay. So this was Stephen's response to a question he was asked, and he was basically just explaining that what they think is the problem is not really the problem, but it is instead the problem is them, because of I guess what they had believed in and what they thought was right was actually not correct. And they obviously didn't like this because being told that they were wrong is probably not something anyone really enjoys. So, does anyone want to read 54 through 60?
47.
Alright, I guess I'll do it. When they heard these things, they were cut to the heart, and they gnashed on him with their teeth. But he, being full of the Holy Ghost, looked up steadfastly in heaven, And he saw the glory of God, and Jesus standing on the right hand of God, and said, Behold, I see the heavens opened, and the Son of Man standing on the right hand of God. Then they cried out with a loud voice, and stopped their ears, and ran upon him with a cord, and cast him out of the city, and stoned him. And the witnesses laid down their clothes at a young man's feet, whose name was Saul. And they stoned Stephen, calling upon God, and saying, Lord Jesus, receive my spirit. And he kneeled down and cried with a loud voice, Lord, lay not this sin to their charge. And when he had said this, he fell asleep.
Okay, so that was their, kind of, it was obviously harsh. That was their response to what Stephen had told them. And even though Stephen, what he had said was a little bit harsh, they obviously took it not very well because they were being told that they were wrong, and they didn't like it because they thought they were right, which they weren't. So Stephen was then killed by the people. One of them, the people who had asked him that question originally. And so he was stoned and killed. But if you look at the end of that, he stayed basically with God until the very end, where he said, Lord, do not hold this sin against them. And then he died right after he said that. So he said almost exactly what Jesus had said when he was on the cross. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. He wanted God to, not really punish them for that, because, if Stephen had the love of Christ in him, then he obviously doesn't want people to get hurt. But Stephen was killed, sadly. And, that was a result of him standing up for God and not really backing down, which is good. That's good, of course. And, so that was the end of that, and Stephen died, and that's really looked at as it's kind of an example that we should all look at and try and follow after. Well, not to go get stoned by people, but to just never really hesitate to stand up for what you believe in, and just kind of continue to put your trust in God no matter what you're facing. Even if it's little things, just try and do your best to continue to go. And that's not like the only place we see it. We do see it a lot of other people. Like the 12 disciples. Does anyone know how many of the 12 disciples were martyred?
0.
3.
More.
6.
More.
And a half.
10.
More.
12.
less.
11.
11, yeah. All of them except for...
Peter. Oh wait, no, he died.
Pretty sure it was John. Yeah, all of them except for John were martyred. And this didn't include Judas because, Judas kind of killed himself. So.
And I think if I'm right, I think they tried to kill John. Didn't they boil John or something like that?
Yeah.
He survived. He lived through it. That's where he had a lot of his revelation or whatever he was going through that whole experience.
That was excellent.
So, yes. So they tried to kill him.
Yeah,
How do you survive being boiled?
God. Same way
How do you
Shadrach,
survive
Meshach.
going into a fire?
Yeah,
In the Bendigo?
like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They came out, and they were just fine. They didn't even smell like smoke. Yeah, John survived that. But, excuse me. All of them were martyred, and the first example we see of the disciples being martyred was in Acts 12. It was verses 1 and 2. I'll read that in just a second. You don't have to turn there, but you can if you want. It says, At that time Herod the king laid violent hands on some who belonged to the church. He killed James, the brother of John, with the sword. So, that was the first example of martyrdom of the disciples, and James was the first one to go. And we also see in John, we never saw in the scripture the description of Peter being killed, but Jesus did predict that was going to happen. And does anyone know how Peter was killed? Yeah.
Put on the cross, but sideways.
It was upside down. But yeah.
Oh, upside down. Same thing.
He was hung upside down because he didn't want to be killed like the same way Jesus was. And
So just think about that.
We get dizzy when we hang upside down. And he's hanging upside down for hours.
well, they were gonna hang him right side up, but he didn't want to because he didn't feel worthy enough to be killed the same way Jesus was. So he told him to hang him upside down, which was probably more painful than being hung right side up. You know, you're not disoriented and stuff. So
You feel like pressure in your hands.
yeah, all the blood flow would go to your head, and then you'd probably be up there all dizzy and
I would
stuff.
pass
And,
out before I mean, I'm sure Jesus passed out.
yeah, all the blood loss and stuff.
Very dangerous.
Stand over. It's,
Yeah.
It was probably more painful to get hung upside down, but they probably didn't do all the stuff that they did to Jesus. Then, like, they ripped Jesus' beard out and stuff.
Well, yeah, Jesus faced the most brutal death of all time. And nothing's really been close to it. But yeah, being hung upside down was probably pretty painful. But he only did it because, you know, for the sake of not wanting to be compared to Jesus, because none of us can.
None of us were even.
And
Okay.
Stephen's death wasn't all bad. It did result in a lot of good things. So before Stephen's death, the gospel was basically centered in Jerusalem and hadn't really moved anywhere else yet. But people had heard of Stephen, and they took the gospel out of that, and they took it and spread it outside of Jerusalem, which, if that wouldn't have happened, who knows, we might not even be here right now. The Americans, or originally the British, maybe wouldn't have gotten the gospel message. But because of Stephen's sacrifice and what he had done, it resulted in very good things that have helped all of us, obviously. And yeah, so the point of saying that is to say that martyrdom, although it is very dark and might not be one of the most happy things to talk about, good things do come out of it. If people see that, hey, there's people dying for this Jesus person, there's got to be something up with him, then they're going to probably look into it, and then they're going to find out all about it, and then they might even give their life to Christ. And, yeah. So, Stephen, he's a good guy, you know, stayed loyal to God till the end, and did end up helping the spread of the gospel message. So, you might be thinking, okay, well, this is all in biblical times, and this is all old stuff, and this doesn't happen anymore, which is a good thought, because, you know, you don't really see on the news people getting stoned and stuff, because that's not really a good form of, well, I wouldn't say good, there's no good form of killing. But, yeah, people don't really get stoned or something like, or anything like that anymore, but there is martyrdom that does still happen. Recently, there was a guy named Dietrich Bonhoeffer, and he was a Lutheran, I don't want to call him a missionary, but like,
Hey Mark, can you take over? I gotta go outside for a minute.
he spread the gospel. And Bonhoeffer was alive during the
Thank you.
Holocaust
It's a
era.
little wobbly.
And
Sorry.
he was actually arrested due to his anti-Nazi beliefs and also the preaching of God that he did every so often. And yeah, he was put in jail. And while he was in jail, Hitler had made up something that he said that Bonhoeffer was involved in the plan to kill him, which he wasn't. Well, as far as we know, he wasn't. And yeah, he was later falsely accused of that. And we all, well, not we all, but most people think it was basically just because of his Christian beliefs and the spreading of the gospel. They had decided to kill him for that. And I don't really know if any good came out of that, but I mean, it is a big part of the Christian history. So yeah, that helps. And have any of you heard any stories of people facing persecution because of Jesus? Anyone?
Repeat your statement again.
Has anyone heard any stories of people facing persecution because of Jesus?
Not a statement, it's a question.
Oh, same thing.
Anyone?
I mean, in almost every country other than our own, people are being persecuted for being Christians. There was somebody in Iran, I think, that was there being held over a year, maybe a couple of years, and I think he actually was released. But in China all the time, it's illegal in China. It's not just nobody is a Christian in China. It's actually illegal to be a Christian, and so if they catch you having church in China, they can kill you.
That's horrible.
I mean, have you all heard of the term underground church?
Yeah.
So what does that mean?
Oh, okay. So basically, in Bridgewater Church, my friend goes there, and they have this thing, they actually call it underground church. So basically, people are having church, and then I think it's the IBMC or some Russian thing, or come and they're trying to find them, but you can't get caught or else you'll be taken to jail. It's weird because it's like a game. It's kind of like hide and seek in the dark. It's how the way we play it. But yeah, it's like
But which Bibles?
yeah. How do you know? Wait, he knows. He was there one day. I saw him there.
That's true.
I don't even know what I'm talking about.
But what is so what is an underground church?
Okay, so you're basically having church and you're running away and you're doing it in private
Okay.
and you
There's these Russians, and there's a pastor that's hiding from the Russians, and then there's a group of regular Christians, and they're trying. So no one knows who the pastor is, but then the Russians are trying to capture the pastor, and they catch all the Christians, they take them to jail, and then Bibles are kind of the get out of jail free card, and there's 5 Bibles, and if the Russians either get the pastor or all the Bibles, then they.
Okay. So not just, you turn it into a game. I mean, this is true too. In real life. I mean, you have, and not just in Russia, but in China as well. I mean, you have where underground churches are literally. I think this is kind of convicting for me.
18 minutes.
I take for granted so often I can come here just so freely and just to listen to a sermon and listen to worship, and yet some people on the other side of the world are dying from doing that. They have to literally, they can't go in pairs. They have to go by themselves to the place where they're needed in case they're being followed. I mean, that's just.
Wait, what? Doesn't it say in the Bible when one or more are joined together, something like that?
Yeah, if more than one are gathered together, then God is there.
Right, and so God is still there, even though.
Yeah, even if you're by yourself.
Yeah, even though they're meeting together in secret, but they understand and value what the importance of the local church. Whereas so often, you and I take it for granted because we can go, and I hate using this word, we can go from basically church shopping. We can go from church to church until we find one that we like. Whereas for them, if they meet together, they are basically saying, I love Jesus so much that I'm willing to risk my own life just so I can meet with others that have the same beliefs that I do. And yet you and I will never truly understand that as of right now.
I mean, I was just gonna say, does anybody feel like there's no way that could ever happen in the United States of America?
It definitely could.
I mean,
It's not gonna happen to by the government, but like there could be like militias who are going to.
I mean, there are people who are actively trying to make it a hate crime to preach anything from the pulpit. Where like they could actually, if they were successful over the course of time, they could arrest pastors for preaching the gospel. It could happen. So that's why it's important when we have election day, like we just did this week, that people vote for church issues, vote for church agenda.
What I would do about church.
I'm not trying to get on politicians or anything.
You're too young.
It's political.
Political, I'm not trying to get on political or anything. I'm almost scared to vote for a Democrat. I'm like almost scared to vote. For reasons that I'm not gonna bring up, but seriously.
You are 12. Stay out of politics.
You're 15.
Yes.
All right.
You have 7
Okay, so bring this back. Okay, so does everybody remember the group called ISIS? Yes.
Yes.
The leader got killed a couple weeks ago. One of the main leaders got killed.
Okay, so is ISIS a form of what we're talking about?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So here's the crazy thing about this. Not only does martyrdom happen in Christianity, but it can happen in other religions as well, like Islam. But I mean, we see ISIS is not very kind to Christians, mainly because of what?
God.
Because they
Dislike God. They don't believe in
because we believe that God is who?
the king, the ruler.
The
Yes,
Son of God.
we believe God is Jesus, whereas Islam believes God is